A bit. Well, actually, I was going to move on to gameplay footage, but there's a bit more about. Uh, there's a few more things in the intro here that I think would be good to touch on. So I have added a few more images. I added the remaining voice clips for the intro, and now actually, it was probably a better idea to put all the voice clips for each segment in there at once. So you can kind of get the full picture, and that's what I just did and realized there's a few more elements I need to do here. So first, let me play what I have so far. You'll notice I added a few more images, um, which I will need to resize and properly credit and such in a moment. But first, let me just see what I have altogether.
While the C64 was all the rage in the USA, a different home computer was taking the UK by storm. Introduced in 1982, the popular ZX Spectrum introduced a color display and an affordable price. The ZX was discontinued by 1992, but it was enough time to release the one Simpsons game.
Okay, so that's all the audio for the first segment, the intro. So here I have this C64 box hanging on to the end there. I don't need that there. Instead, I'm going to pull in the box for the Spectrum game. So there it is. So that should be all the images I need for this portion. What else have I done? You can see here that the bottom bar I used earlier for text at the bottom. I'm going to need to use that to give credit to all of these images because the images here, this images 1 or 2, 3, 4, and 5, these are not my images. So I need to make sure to give credit to the sources for those. So the bottom bar is just going to be visible the whole time, basically, because I need to give them credit. But yeah, let's move along one at a time here. So this image of the Spectrum we set up before, and I think it's fine. Another thing I did is I set up the lengths of these images, like of the length of time the images are on screen. I needed to adjust that to kind of align with the voice. So I think that's probably pretty good. Like before, I'm going to go in with transitions, video, dissolve, cross dissolve, which I'm showing here on the left. It's the interesting part about transitions and all these effects is there's a lot of them, and I think it's tempting to use them a lot, but it's up to the creator, of course. I tend to use them a lot in the intro parts where I'm kind of talking about different topics in the intro, and I have to kind of move between different images as I go. So I will use the cross dissolve pretty heavily here in the intro, just between all these different elements. But I would just advise to be careful not to go overboard with that, you know. But yeah, for the intro, whatever. I'm just going to go all in on the cross dissolves. I'm just going to check on that real quick.
While the C64 was all the rage in the USA, a different home computer was taking the UK by storm. Introduced in 1982, the popular ZX Spectrum introduced a color display and an affordable price. The ZX was discontinued by 1992, but it was enough time to release the one Simpsons game.
Okay. So that's all those elements. I think that works pretty good as far as the amount of time each one is on screen. So the next thing is these different images I brought in. They're not resized at all. They're at their native size. So you can see this is just kind of a weird little image in the middle of the screen. Same with this one, and then this one's way too big and kind of goes beyond the borders. So I need to fix that. So let's start with this first one. I think with this first one, I want to. I just like the image of this dude, this old timey '80s dude with a computer here. It looks pretty cool. So I'm gonna resize this image. So for that, I'm gonna go over to my controls on the left. I'm gonna adjust the scale. You can do that manually. Like if you you'll see a little arrow with a line with two arrows on the sides. If you click and drag, it'll let you manually kind of adjust that scale. So I can go smaller if I need to, but I'm looking to go bigger. And in my case, I'm just going to try to fill the screen. Yeah, just like that. And then I'm going to change the position of this. Oh, except I meant to adjust the vertical position. You can see that there are a couple of different adjustments you can make here. There's position left and right, or X and Y, Actually, this is 3D. Anyway, but yeah, the left number adjusts left and right. The right number adjusts up and down. So along the y-axis, that's what I was trying to say. So here I'm trying to adjust it up. Um, yeah, it's kind of big. I guess I'd prefer to not have that text in the way. Let's see. Uh, oh, actually, you know what? I changed my mind about what I want to do here. I think we're going to go for an animation. So I'm going to start the animation here. And animation, it's not too tricky, but I'll go ahead and show that. So I want to make sure I have that image selected for an animation. And now you can see here what I'm doing is there's these little adjust controls here below the viewer for frame. And this lets you go through frame by frame, right? So left, moving back through the timeline one frame at a time, moving forward through the timeline one frame at a time. And I'm trying to get to the point where I see this this handle, this position handle here in the middle with the green and red arrow and the blue square. That means that's for manually adjusting the image, which I don't advise you do because things can get kind of out of control. Like if you know, I guess you can do that if you want to, but I'm not going to do that at this point. That's not what we're going to modify anyway. So, all right. So I'm going to animate this image moving from the top of the image down toward the guy at the bottom. So that means I'm going to set a keyframe. A keyframe means programs will, instead of you having to manually adjust the position of an image one frame at a time, which is, animating by hand, that's what you do. You literally redraw the thing one at a time. The programs will do the animation for you as long as you set the start frame and the end frame for where you want the animation to begin and where you want the animation to end. So I'm going to animate this. I'm going to animate the position. So I'm setting the keyframe here at the beginning. So clicking on this dot means you want to you've started animating. You set the first keyframe, and now I'm going to move my slider here. You can see that the dot's missing. That's because you've moved off the first keyframe, which is right there, and now you need to move to where you want the next keyframe. And it's pretty simple. I just want the keyframe. I just want this to animate from the beginning to the end, as long of the duration on the screen. So during the time this image is on the screen, I want it to slowly kind of animate upward from the text to the guy at the bottom. So now I'm going to set my other keyframe here by making a change. And as soon as you make any change to the the, the image or whatever element, it's going to set the next keyframe. So now I set the keyframe at the end. I'm going to adjust this to. Actually, I don't think it has to go too low, but I think it should show the computer down at the bottom, so maybe right there. So, and that's it. So I've gone ahead and animated it. You can see there it's doing its thing. Let's see how that looks.
The UK by storm. Introduced in 1982, the popular ZX Spectrum.
Ooh, see, that's not going to work because it kind of sits still and then starts to animate, which doesn't look good. It's because of the cross dissolve. So, what if I get rid of the cross dissolve?
In the UK by storm. Introduced in 1982, the popular ZX Spectrum.
Oof, you know what? That animation's too fast. Doesn't look good. I think it's just moving too quickly. So let's go back and try
again. A different home computer was taking the UK by storm. Introduced in 1982, the popular ZX Spectrum.
So instead of starting from way up here, I'm instead going to start the animation a bit lower. So I'm going to go back, click on the image that I messed with. I'm going to use my frame tool here. I'm going to unclick that keyframe, and by unclicking that that dot, you remove the animation. So that's what I've gone ahead and done. So yeah, I think I still like the thought of the animation, but it was moving too quick. So I'm going to move this up a bit, like I don't know. something like that, maybe. Yeah, that might be pretty good. So let's go ahead and start the animation there. I'm going to move to the end of the image, clip, and I'm going to move this guy upward to maybe not that low, right here. And let's see how that looks.
Storm. Introduced in 1982, the popular ZX Spectrum introduced a color display and an affordable.
That's pretty good. I like that speed.
Storm. Introduced in 1982, the popular ZX Spectrum introduced a color display.
Yeah, I'm going to leave it without the cross dissolve as well. So, all right, that's good for that. The next thing to do is this next image. Well, for one thing, we need to definitely adjust the size of it, the scale. So, yeah, like before, I'm going to grab this number here. I'm going to drag to the right to scale it upward to, yeah, right there is fine. Oh, here's an idea. So this image, we animated it starting from the top toward the bottom. I think this one I'm going to start with the bottom. Just kind of mirror that and start at the bottom and animate it toward the top. Same thing, I'm going to get rid of the cross dissolve because I don't think it'll be necessary. Oh, got to make sure it's selected if you're trying to. So this is where it starts. Okay. Let me make sure that the position of this thing is in the right spot. So something else you might run into, like here, I'm trying to click on this image, but what it's actually doing is selecting the bottom bar. And that's because even though it's transparent, the image is still as big as you see the blue line here. That's how big this black bar is. Those are just transparent pixels, obviously, all this empty area. But it's selecting the wrong thing. It's kind of annoying because I want to be able to click directly on this image, the Speccy 4 image. So that should be easy to do. We can lock track. Let me make sure about that. Oh, not lock track. What I can do is hide it. So there you go. So if you hide the track, it hides everything on it, and you can't accidentally select it anymore. So that's one way around that issue. Is if you want to click on stuff that's below other things, other elements, then that's a quick and easy way to do it. Just hide it temporarily to get rid of it. All right. So I wanted to. Right now, I'm not using the number slider. What I'm doing is using the arrow keys. And if you hold Shift and arrow keys, you can move it pretty far, like I'm doing here. So I think this is a pretty cool image. It kind of has. I do this a lot in the videos. I include kind of text images that have some detail on them. I don't expect people to actually read what's there. It's gonna fly by pretty quickly anyway. But I think it's an interesting bit of history to find old images like these and include them with any kind of text. So same thing. I'm gonna start an animation for the position. So this is the opening keyframe. I'm gonna slide this over to the right. And let's make sure it's selected so I can find the last frame. Last frame, where are you? And there you go. So the way I'm verifying it's the last frame is I've selected it, and you can see the blue bounding kind of box on the edge there. That means it's still selected. That might not be the best way or accurate way, but it's the way I've learned to do it. So now I'm going to tweak the position. So we're going to move this down a little bit. We learned from the last image that it's not good to move it too far, so I might not go. I think I'll stop right about there. We'll see how fast that appears to animate. And like before, I'm going to get rid of this cross dissolve here in the middle because I don't think it looks as good as I'd like it to.
A different home computer was taking the UK by storm. Introduced in 1982, the popular ZX Spectrum introduced a color display and an affordable price.
Oof. That was very fast, just because it's not on screen for very long. So animating it from from the starting position to the end in that time frame, which is shorter. You can see here, it doesn't look as good. It's very fast. So, you know what? This one I might not animate at all. Let's disable animation on that. Select it, and maybe I'll just pick a good part of. Here you go. I think this is good information here. Kind of let this linger so people can see that what they could pay for this. This is pretty cheap. I'm just noticing now. For 175 pounds, which I'm sure in the 80s that was a lot more than it is now, but it's still pretty good for a computer, for a personal computer. So yeah, I think that's going to be it for this part. Let's
Storm.
play.
Introduced in 1982, the popular ZX Spectrum introduced a color display and an affordable price. The ZX was discontinued.
You know what? So after all that, I'm not gonna do animation. I think I think animating one, not animating the other looks a bit weird. So I'm just gonna do this. Have the dude looking at his computer, hitting a key on the keyboard there, and that means I can reintroduce cross dissolves because these things are no longer animating. And there you go.
By Storm. Introduced in 1982, the popular ZX Spectrum introduced a color display and an affordable price. The ZX was
There you go. That looks pretty good. Now, I mentioned I have to give credit to these images, the sources for these images, which I'll do now. Pretty easy. The bottom bar is already extending across all of them. This text only applied to the first image, so these two images came from the same place, this one and this one. So I just need one bit of text for both. Let's go ahead and find that source real quick. All right, so there's a few different ways I guess one can give that credit. Here's how I'm going to do it for this one. I have to re-show the bottom bar, don't I? There it is. So in this case, it's a particular web page online where I found these images. So I want to both credit the title to give context for what they're looking at, and obviously provide the link so people can go check it out for themselves. So let's see. So I just copied the text over again. I'm going to create a new line of text here, but first, I'm just realizing this bottom bar won't work for the new stuff. So I'm going to shorten this bottom bar to there. I'm going to copy it over. There you go. And now the reason this version of the bottom bar here wouldn't work is it's not high enough. So I need to adjust that. I'm going to go ahead and select that bottom bar, and I'm going to give it enough space for 2 lines of text. I think that's good. So then I'm going to bump up this line of text here a little bit. Right there's good. And once again, I'm using the arrows to adjust that position. So let's go in here. So the first thing I'm going to do is include the name of the article. There you go. Then I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to find the URL for where I found this. Paste that in there. There you go. So yeah, I think that's, that just kind of gives the source of where I found it, the name of the article so people can Google it, and then the link so people can find it. And it's pretty rad, actually. It's a pretty cool little archive of this advertisement for the ZX Spectrum back in the 80s. So there's that, and I'm going to have to do the same thing with the next image. So I'll extend that bar over because it'll apply. I'm going to create another copy of that text. So when you copy and paste things, it's going to paste them at the location of your of the slider. So if your slider is placed over something, it'll give you that warning about overlapping, which I don't want to do. So I'll just move this over, paste it there, and then I'll slide it into position. resize it so it fits over this image. I want. Oh, actually, I just realized I goofed because these images are both from the same place, so I can't just use the same text for both. All right, and that should be it for that one.
A different home computer was taking the UK by storm. Introduced in 1982, the popular ZX Spectrum introduced a color display and an affordable price. The ZX was...
All right, that's it for that. Final bits. I need to figure out how to do with this image. Let's take a look at. It's basically just an advertisement that I found. Just again, more kind of historical imagery for the topic at hand. Let's see what I can do with this one. Let's get a full look at the image here. Yeah, it's just another little image. And again, I think it might be cool to animate, but I don't think I have enough time to kind of animate and make it look good. So I might not do that. Maybe just pick a. So here's the other problem too: is I still need to adjust the size of this. So let's transform, fit it to frame width. So just stretch it out to fit the frame of the viewer. So now it's a lot bigger. Let's see. Maybe I can animate it starting there and ending there. Something like that. Yeah, I think I'm going to try that. So same thing. I need to go to the starting keyframe of this thing. That's where it begins. So I'm going to go there. Go to my controls, transform position, set the first keyframe, go over to the end of this thing, and that's the last frame of it. So I'm going to adjust the vertical position a little bit, something like that. Not too much, so hopefully it's slower. Let's see how it plays.
The ZX was discontinued by 1992, but it was enough time to release the One Simpsons.
All right. Here I do need to extend the bar because I'm going to have to give credit for that image as well. But let me just
introduced a color display and an affordable price. The ZX was discontinued by 1992, but it was enough time to
see that's so short that yeah, I'm going to bail on the animation there. I don't think it's just too short for this context. So I'm just going to clicking on that bottom bar again. Let's hide it. So let's just show this. Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Display and an affordable price. The ZX was discontinued by 1992, but it was enough time to release the One Simpsons game.
So there you go. And that means I can go ahead and abuse the cross dissolve a little bit more. Just pop it right in there. And I need the text for this last image. So let me go ahead and find that. That means I need to create one more copy of this text, position it where I need it, resize it, and then go into text mode to actually change the text. Oh, I done goofed because that's not the text I want. Get out of text mode, delete that, copy paste. I have to move this over this way. Let's make sure that bottom bar is visible again. That's good. So, all right, here's the title of the new article. And here is the link from another rad site. They archive the stuff. Cool. I think that's the intro. Just take it all the way back.
While the C64 was all the rage in the USA, a different home computer was taking the UK by storm. Introduced in 1982, the popular ZX Spectrum introduced a color display and an affordable price. The ZX was discontinued by 1992, but it was enough time to release the one Simpsons game.
Boom. All right. That's my intro. Done and done. After this, I will actually move on to implementing some gameplay footage. Yep. Alrighty.